Hi there, and welcome to the Momversation Club, the podcast born out of the idea that every mom needs a tribe. I'm Claire Strong.
And I'm Christina Struckmeyer. We're two moms just like you, navigating the chaotic, challenging, and often isolating world of motherhood.
Yeah, now it's said that it takes a village to raise a child, but we want to know, where the F is that village?
It's a question that resonates with so many of us who find ourselves raising children, managing careers, and trying to maintain our identities, often with a sense of isolation.
Yeah, it can be work, but we're here to remind you that you're not alone. The Momversation Club is your village, a place where you feel valued, appreciated, and understood.
We believe that by sharing our experiences, successes, and struggles, we can create a virtual village for all you amazing mamas out there.
Yeah, so join us every week for an honest, raw, and relatable discussion about all aspects of motherhood, including the stuff you just can't talk about to anyone else.
So if you've ever asked yourself where the F is the village, then you found your tribe. Let's get into it.
So Christina, how are you doing?
Hey Claire, I'm doing good. I'm getting really excited about the holidays. I've got Christmas music playing at my house already, and we are stoked. I'm not allowed to put the tree up yet, but we're getting there. We're getting close.
Don't you just love Christmas music? What's your favorite Christmas music?
I love all of them, but I'm a big fan of like the Bing Crosby and like the old school
Yes,
Christmas songs.
me
Like they're just
too.
classics. Like
I love it. I love
yeah.
all the
What's your
classics.
favorite one?
Well, so I'm the same. I love all the classics. I love all the traditional ones as well, including, like more churchy ones, more religious
Mm-hmm.
ones. We Three Kings. Oh my God.
Mm.
We Three Kings. You know how it
Oh,
goes.
it's a musical episode. I love it.
Well, I like to spice things up. Yeah, oh my God. We Three Kings is the best Christmas song ever. It's probably not a song, is it? What is it? Like a carol? It's a carol.
Like a hymn? I don't
A
know.
hymn. A
Yeah, a
Christmas hymn.
carol.
Yeah. That's my favorite. But the soundtrack to my Christmas day is always Michael Bublé.
You are a
Yeah.
fan of Michael Bublé. I think we've talked about this in the podcast before.
I do. I am a bit of a fan, actually. It's not that I have a crush on the guy. I don't. But I do. I know. Seriously, I don't.
Okay.
However, I do think it's all about the Bublé on Christmas Day. It has to be. That's what gets me through my Christmas dinner prep and everything.
Oh man. Well, I feel like everybody's got their thing, and I'm glad you have Bublé in your corner.
I'm glad too. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm glad. And it's to get us in the spirit because, as moms, we are in charge of the Christmas magic. We're in charge of setting the tone for the house. And for you, it's the Bublé. You've got to have the Bublé.
Yeah, I do. I need to have a Bublé in my life around Christmas time. But
Oh
talking
my
about
gosh.
Christmas, we're going to chat about that today, aren't we? But we're going to chat about
Yeah.
boundaries around Christmas because it can be overwhelming. You've got family and relatives and friends that are all clamoring for your time. So, how do you navigate that? Because you've got quite a big family and a blended family, don't you?
Yeah, we have okay, let's get into it. Are we
Yeah.
just gonna jump into the
You
topic?
just
Let's
jump
do
in.
it.
I want to know what Christmas is like for you.
Okay. So, we have a couple different types of dynamics. So we've got my family, like that I come from, and
Uh-huh.
then we've got my husband's family, who is loving and amazing, and then we have also my ex-husband, who we do co-parenting holidays with. So there's a lot of like different parts to it. It's kind of like a moving mechanism.
Yeah.
Couple different dynamics though going into it. My family is a little less together, like nuclearly. How do you help me with that word?
I know
Nuclear.
what you mean. So it's not the traditional
They're not like a
nuclear
nuclear
family.
family. Yeah.
I get you. Yeah.
Yeah, and boundaries are important with them, so we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And then my husband's family is very warm. We do a lot of activities with them, and then it's about like bringing in my ex-husband into things that make sense but aren't awkward for him, because if you include him in everything, it's kind of like we have our family and then he's like over here doing his thing at our family gathering. It can feel kind of awkward for him. So I'm always kind of being mindful about that.
So just
But
stop
we
right
stay
there. Just stop right there. So you're telling me that your ex-husband is present at Christmas dinner with
yeah.
you and your current husband and your in-laws?
So what I tend to do is I travel for the lead up to Christmas. And then
Okay.
Christmas Day, I do a brunch at our home and I invite my family that I speak to, his family that is around, that's like localized. And then I invite my ex-husband and his partner and his partner's son.
Oh my
And so they
God.
all come together for like a brunch gathering where we eat. It's kind of like a later brunch. We'll do pies, things like that, and then open our gifts. And so we'll get gifts for him and all this stuff. So we're all together.
So I love it. I love it. And that really is like the ultimate in co-parenting. But isn't it a bit weird? Does it not feel a bit strange?
So the first few years we did it, I didn't have a partner, or I did, and we were just starting to date.
Uh-huh.
And so it was kind of like me and him and the little one, and then the people that are supporting partners in that. But now that I have a little one, it's kind of like it is a little awkward because it's my family, like our little family unit, and then he's kind of like aside, like he's a different part of that unit. We try to make it as inclusive as we can, though, because we want them to feel like they belong. And they're not very close with their families. So our gathering is kind of like their thing. Like they don't go other places.
I mean, that is so beautiful. You are literally a saint. Saint
Well,
Christina of
it helps that he and I have very good boundaries, which is the
Oh,
point of
okay.
today's
So talk
discussion.
to me
So
about those then. So talk to me about the boundaries that you specifically have in place with regards to your ex-husband being present on Christmas Day.
okay, so first off, I am a recovering people pleaser. Like I
Yes.
used to be the referee in my family. Like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, everyone, you stay there, you stay there. I'll hold the peace. Like I'll be the person that stays in the middle. But as I went to therapy as an adult, I learned that that isn't very helpful because the way that you are teaches people on how to treat you. And if you're constantly
Yes.
teaching them that you'll always get in the middle and solve all their problems, they're going to continue to problem dump on you and continue to lean on you. So, my thing with boundaries is a lot of people feel like it's like this defensive thing, like, oh, you have a boundary. So now you're like pushing me away. And it's like,
Yeah.
no,
Like it's a negative. It's a negative to have
yeah,
boundaries. You're almost like a cold-hearted, you know what, if you have boundaries.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got a really good wisdom from my first therapist that said boundaries aren't pushing people out. They're there to help keep people in,
Oh, I love
you
it.
know? And
Yeah.
so
Like reverse psychology almost.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so with my ex-husband and I made a boundary that we don't talk about negative things about each other to our children or around our kids. So we both have this positive way we speak about each other in front of our child. And we also, when there is something negative, try to take some space before we address it with each other. And
Yeah,
this is
that's
a
a great
lot
one.
on my side. Like
Yeah.
typically I am the one getting irritated. I am the one that blows up. And so I have to like, okay, what is the greater goal of this situation? Like,
Yeah.
do I want to be right or do I want him to be a part of my daughter's life and like be in a space where we can all do this together?
So I guess focusing on your daughter that you have together is what
Yeah.
keeps this on track and keeps the whole thing in perspective. Is
Yeah,
that right?
listening. Yeah, and I think the big thing, and this can go for anyone trying to like set boundaries, is
Mhm.
what is your goal? Like, what's your ultimate goal? What do you want? And for me, I want my child to grow up knowing her parents don't hate each other and that there's a lot of love that is there for each other as friends and that she's in a comfortable space. She never has to pick sides. So,
Yes.
working backwards, in order for that to happen, we cannot get into that space. We cannot get into the ring and start boxing it out, even when he's being irritating. And he listens, I'm sure. He is irritating.
For
He
the
gets on my
record.
nerves sometimes. I'm not a saint.
Do you feel better having just got that out there?
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's a lot of like, we're great friends. Da, 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 da. Doesn't mean he doesn't piss me off. He's not an
Yeah.
asshole sometimes. Like that happens.
Yeah.
But I choose to like go talk to my current partner and say, here's what's bothering me or my therapist instead of grabbing that and going to him. Like it's a it's a boundary I've set with myself that I won't talk about things with him like that until I've calmed down.
That is very mature, but it makes total sense. I mean, even with situations that are not exactly the same as yours, I do think it's always better if you can, instead of just firing back in the moment, because we're all guilty of that. It's human nature to that response mechanism in our brain just goes into overdrive when something, winds us up or makes us irate. And I think if
Yeah.
you can just remove yourself from that situation, I know it can be hard, but if you can, like physically, I do that with my kids sometimes, because they push buttons. They know what buttons to
They
press.
do. And they know him so well.
Oh God, they do. And my biggest button is when my two girls argue and they're falling out. Oh my God, I just go from 0 to 1,000. And so I know in that situation, the best thing I can do as a parent is remove myself from physically from that room. I will get myself out of that situation until I've calmed down. Otherwise, we'd
Yeah,
have like World War III inside the house. So I
totally.
hear you. So I'm a big supporter of trying to put space between you and your reaction in those types of situations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for a lot of people, the holidays can be really troubling because there's so many things you'd like to do, or maybe there's a lot of things that people would like you to do. And there's only so much time, there's only so much
Yes.
energy. And also, you've got to prioritize the health and happiness of your family above everything else.
So one thing I will say that I struggle with is, and it's not just holiday specific, but it particularly rears its head around holiday time. I am guilty of having images in my head of what I want things to look like, and that can be a good thing
Mm,
sometimes. I try and manifest stuff and good things, and hopefully they will happen. But when it comes to this particular subject, I have this very fixed image in my head of what this is going to look like and what we're going to do on this day. And if it doesn't happen, that can derail me a little bit. And so I've got better, I think, over the years. I'm self-aware enough to know that that is a little bit of an issue for me. So that's something that I struggle with. But getting back
yeah.
to you, because I'm just picturing this image. So you're all at your
Yeah.
house, you've got your ex-husband, his partner. So tell me the
It's
lineup. Who sits where?
well, we try to do like a brunch so people kind of
Uh-huh.
sit wherever. But so it's not like a table, it's like a open seating. People grab their plates of stuff and go sit wherever in the
Okay.
house. But here's the crew. So it's my mother and she's a character. I think I've mentioned my mom's kind of younger, so she's kind of sassy.
Yeah.
It's my youngest brother who he's about 10 years younger than me. He
Yeah.
is like a new recent college grad, kind of younger guy. My ex-husband, his partner, her son, who's a teen, my
Ooh.
mother-in-law, my husband, our 1-year-old now, and then usually some sort of neighbor or someone that we've invited, and then my grandma and grandpa. I call them Nana and Papa, and they're there as
Oh,
well.
that's so
And they're my dad's
sweet.
parents. So, and my dad's passed, but like they've always been so close. They're like second parents. So, it's kind of
Oh.
like it's everybody and everybody gets along. My parent, like my mom and dad really cared for my ex-husband. They saw the faults that I saw and like they obviously understood the break, but like we've always had like a friendship and so they've really cared for him and then everybody else is just really respectful. The first year it was very weird. I
Right.
remember we had broken up and then the thought like 6 months later we were all just hanging out Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Oh my God. That's so
And I was like, this is
awkward.
how it's gonna be. Like I refuse to have a situation where my kid has to pick sides of like where they're
Yes.
going Christmas Day.
Yes, I hear you. And I did that for a short time when my kids were younger and I separated from my ex-husband. I did that. I remember the first year we separated, so similar situation. I went for Christmas lunch at my ex-mother-in-law's house where my ex-husband was. We hadn't divorced at that time, but we were separated. And it was just me on my own with my girls. So there was me and the girls, then his mom, him, obviously. I think his brother was there and maybe his sister. So it was a little awkward, but I did it for the girls because I wanted,
Yeah.
you put on a united front for the kids, don't you? I mean, that is the right thing to do. I mean, you
Yeah.
can have whatever views you want about that person behind closed doors, but especially when they're younger. I mean, now my girls are older. I feel I don't need to be quite as guarded about things, especially with my eldest.
Sure.
She'll ask questions, and so I answer them honestly now. But when they were younger, for sure, I try and keep our, united front, and any issues I had with my ex, I didn't verbalize them in front of the girls. So I think that's the right thing to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
I think so too. And, there'll be a time and day, and probably your girls have already had that conversation
Yeah.
where they have the capacity to understand and absorb it in a
Yes.
way that's
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Until that day, you kind of just gloss over a bit until
You
they're really
do.
able to decide and talk about what actually happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of an interesting thing. But one thing that that makes it work is it's
Mm.
at my house. So I don't
So,
know if this would work if it was at, say, my grandparents' house, which would be the
okay.
obvious logical place because they're like the older generation,
Yeah.
the people that we gather there. It's at my house, which means it's my rules and my people.
So why do you have it at your house then? If there was another option, why do you put yourself through all that trauma?
The trauma of
Are you
hosting.
a sadist? I mean, what is the deal, Christina? If you have another
Well,
venue, why are you so hell bent on it being at your house?
yeah. So it used to be before we did this situation and before I remarried that it was at my grandparents' house.
Okay.
But there's been some breaks in relationship with my siblings and I. And I
Ah,
have some siblings that I don't talk to. And if it's at their house, I'm lo and behold to their rules. And I have to get on, with whoever's
yes.
at the house. Versus if it's at my house and it's a brunch, there's no pressure to like invite everyone because if they wanted to gather at Christmas night, they're welcome to.
So I guess actually you having it at your house, that is you taking control of the situation. So you're able
Yeah,
to better impose your own boundaries because the whole event is taking place in your home.
correct. And I can invite
Uh-huh.
who I want to invite and not invite others who I don't feel are going to be a healthy thing to be at my
Okay.
my gathering.
So
Um,
they're the people present on Christmas Day. You need an award. You need a medal for that, by the way. That's that sounds crazy, but I'm very, very I'm admiring you for it. I think it's excellent that you can do all of that and juggle all of those different pieces. So
yeah,
going back to boundaries, so
yeah.
how do you navigate boundaries around the holidays in different ways? For example, you mentioned your mother-in-law. Does she have her own traditions maybe or her own take on
Yeah,
Christmas that she expects
yeah.
you to follow? I mean, how does that play out?
Well, it's hard, right? So
Mm.
the history behind my husband and I is my husband is 40. And
Uh-huh.
up until the last few years, he's been a single man, like his whole life. He dated a
Yes.
few women, but not anything serious. Like there was no family to think of as far as him. So he
Uh-huh.
would go wherever the party was. Like and he has a sister who's wonderful. She's a great hostess. That's literally her job. She teaches hospitality at a college.
Ah.
She's wonderful. She's a great party planner.
Yeah.
But she would be like in charge they would all go to her house and then everybody would kind of follow suit because Alex doesn't have a family. He would just go wherever they're going. Well, when I came into the picture, it did throw a bit of a rumble in because it's like, okay, well, I have my own family and my own commitments and my own people that I need to be with on Christmas Day. And we can't just get up and go to wherever your family is
Yes.
at. And that was really difficult to get in there and infiltrate because there was some hurt feelings. There was some people who felt like we could make it work. And I remember using language like just because we could doesn't mean we should. Like
Oh,
I think
wow.
that even though we could like logistically get there, the happiness of where we're at mentally isn't going to match what it should be. And so there's a lot of that where it's like, okay, so we had to be flexible. There's a lot of
Yes.
compromise that
Yes.
happened.
Yeah.
So instead of us going over there for Christmas Day and not having any space for my family or my stuff, we spend about 3 days over in where my sister-in-law lives. She's quite a drive. And we spend 3 days there. And at that time, we celebrate his father, who's passed a couple of years ago. His birthday is before Christmas Eve. We do Christmas Eve itself, and then we drive back on Christmas Eve morning after like a brunch and head back to our house. So it's not exactly what they would have wanted and what they've expected over the last decade or so, but it's what works for us. And we're in our third year of doing it. And so far, it seems like that boundary, after holding it for so many years, is being respected a lot more than
Yes.
it was the first year.
You've ground them all down.
Well, that's the thing is like people, it's like with anything, like you ever have a toddler who's like
Yeah,
looking to you to see if you're going to bend?
yeah. Or
Like
a
that's
teenager. Mums
or
with
a
teenagers.
teenager,
You hear this?
a
Jeez.
child, they
Yeah.
test your limits. And
Yeah, they do.
when it comes to setting boundaries with people who are not used to pushing, there is no boundary before,
Yeah.
it's hard because they're going to go boop boop. I wonder if this is sturdy. I wonder if this is something
Yes.
that will hold
Yes.
under pressure that I continue to provide. And for me, I'm like, we're iron locked, man. Like this is the boundary and you will
Oh,
not
I love
cross.
it. You know, Christina, I don't know whether I've ever shared this with you, but you're my hero. I'm like, I'm older than you, so I should be guiding you through life. You are just, every time we film our podcast, I'm like, what a nice free therapy session that was for me. So I'm making notes in
It's a lot of
my
money.
not so small notepad. I'll try that one next
Well,
time.
it's hard, and there's a lot of, like, there's a lot of therapy lingo that goes in, like, things like I statements, Um,
Oh,
I
yes.
don't know, are you familiar with stuff like that where you use
Yeah,
I
but go
statements?
through it because these are interesting. You've probably been doing them more lately than I have. But yeah, let's go through some of them because this is a good
Okay.
technique.
Okay. So, for instance, this year
Mhm.
I am one of the reasons that I think I am so good at this is I can anticipate when there's someone who's going to knock at boundaries door, and I can think
Yes.
about what I'm going to say when that knock happens. And so I have a sister who she and I have been estranged for about a year and a half. We haven't talked.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
yeah, it was shortly after my father's passing. There was some stuff that went down that just wasn't safe for my family to be around. And so
Okay.
we took a break, and she has since kind of started to come back into the fold of being at the family events and things. And I have decided that I don't want to be around her. And so it's a safety reason, it's mental health,
Okay.
it's a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
That's not to say forever it'll be like that, but for right
Yeah.
now, with where she's at, I don't feel safe. And
Okay.
so I say, if she knocks on the door and she
Hmm.
calls me up and she's like, "Hey, I'd like to come to Christmas morning. Why am I not invited?" I'm going to say, "Hey, the last few years, you've been doing a lot of things that make me feel unsafe. I would feel better if we went to a common ground, maybe grandparents' house, and exchanged gifts. And I'm open to that, but I do not want you in my home." And that's where I'm at. And that I statement of I feel unsafe when you do
Yes.
XYZ. And I would go into specifics with her, but I'm not going to do it on the podcast for respect reasons. But
Sure.
I feel unsafe when you do XYZ. And for that reason, I would not like you in my home. But I understand that you have a son and I love my nephew and I would love to exchange gifts. Maybe we could meet at a park. Maybe we could go to our grandparents' house. Maybe I can drop off a gift for him and then you can drop
Hmm.
off a gift and we don't see each other. We just exchange.
Hmm.
There's a lot of ways that we can make this work that still respect my boundary. And that would be how I
Yeah.
kind of handle that. And it's
Hmm.
hard,
Hmm.
but that's not to say that in the future there's a really good conversation she and I have. And maybe next year won't be like this. Hopefully there's some repair over the next year, but it hasn't happened yet. And we're at holiday door.
Yeah.
So, that's where we're at right now. That's this year. This is where we're currently at.
Yeah, the holidays, in particular Christmas, and I guess for Thanksgiving for people that are in the States too, because I know Thanksgiving's a huge deal here.
Yeah.
Um, this is a flashpoint, really, isn't it? For if there's any strife in the family, any strained relations, this is
Yeah.
where you really need to be comfortable in your boundary setting.
Yeah.
And I guess it comes down to confidence as well, because I hear you talk, Christina, and you sound so together and so confident. You believe what you're saying, and I get the impression that you believe in your own ability to stay strong and maintain that boundary. So it's very interesting hearing you talk, and it's kind of inspirational. It sounds like that's the way to go, to set your boundary, explain why you've set your boundary, and then just have the confidence to stick with it.
And leave if you need to. Like, the
Yeah.
first there's been a couple of events over the last few years where
Mhm.
family members know that we aren't talking, and she just somehow shows up at that event.
Oh god.
And
What do you
I've had
do?
to I've had
Well,
to
what do you
leave.
do? You've had to leave.
I've just left. I've chosen to be
Yeah.
like, I'm not speaking to her. I'm not going to stick around. I'm just going to grab my family and take off, and we'll just finish the holiday somewhere else. Like, happened on 4th of July this year. It was like,
Oh, shoot.
I thought that it was going to be this way. It's not. And I don't make it a big deal on the person that's hosting. It's not my house. It's up
Mm.
to them. They didn't tell me that, which was very shisty. But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I know where they're coming from because they want harmony. They want things to kind of come together, but that's not the way to do it by forcing it. But you have to make a decision of how am
Yeah.
I going to teach this person on how to treat me without an apology. You don't just get to come into my life again and have a conversation with me like you've never hurt me or my family. Like, you've got to have that talk, and that hasn't happened yet. So therefore we are leaving.
Hmm.
It's hard. It's hard. And you
Yeah.
learn by constantly keeping it. And it can happen in a moment too. Like, say you're at Thanksgiving dinner and there's a conversation starting that becomes very uncomfortable. Has that ever happened to you, Claire, where you're like at a dinner party, or like the
Yes.
conversation turns to like maybe politics or
Oh
something, you're
my
not
god, that's the
comfortable?
worst. So in England, generally the rule of thumb is you never discuss religion or politics unless you know those people really, really well. And
Yeah.
so it's the worst. And actually, it tends to be, since I moved over here, Americans asking me about my political views. And
Huh.
yeah, which puts me in a real spot because I'm not culturally, that's not something we discuss openly in England. In fact, I can't tell you which way my mum and dad voted for many years because we don't even discuss that unless you were really, if you had like a strong allegiance to one party and you were actively involved with them. A lot of families in
Yeah.
England don't discuss politics. Like with Brexit, for example, when the UK left the European Union, I didn't know how my mum and dad had voted because it's not something that's discussed. So then I move here, and because I'm an
So not,
outsider, because I'm not from
yeah.
here, and because I'm a journalist, I think people expect me to have some very strong and maybe informed views because of what I do as a job. And I feel really uncomfortable. So, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And so in that situation, I try and answer very diplomatically, and then I will try and change the conversation. That's what
Yes.
I do. It's like a diversion tactic.
That's a
I
great
don't know whether it's
tactic.
the right thing to do, but that's what I do because I
I think
don't want to
so.
get into it with that person because, maybe we have a nice friendship and we're having a nice conversation and I just don't want that conversation with them. I don't think it's appropriate. So I've been in that situation before. I get you.
Yeah.
Luckily, when it comes to Christmas, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the focus here in the States is more on Thanksgiving than Christmas. It's not to say that Christmas isn't a thing, but the whole getting family together for the big meal, that seems to be on Thanksgiving.
Well, it just depends on the way you're
Right.
raised, but I would
Okay.
say it's more common to have a sit down meal at Thanksgiving versus like maybe having a potluck style meal for Christmas. Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
So in England we don't have Thanksgiving, obviously, because the whole reason you guys have Thanksgiving is because, some of our lot decided they were sick to death of England and left. So we don't have
Yes.
Thanksgiving. So Christmas is our Thanksgiving. So Christmas Day is
Yeah.
the biggest day of the year. We have the
Yeah.
sit down turkey and all the trimmings, and generations of family will come over for Christmas Day lunch. Now, luckily, because my in-laws are American, they're in Oklahoma. Thanksgiving's the big deal for them, but Christmas not so
Yes.
much. So I haven't had to, going back to the boundary thing, I haven't had to really set many boundaries around Christmas because I've had the flexibility and space, I guess, to create our own traditions. So I
Yeah.
generally will, cook dinner here in the house, or we have some good friends who live close by. They'll invite us over to their house. My mum and dad have been over. They had a few years where they couldn't get over because of COVID and all the travel restrictions. But the last couple of years they've been over at Christmas. So we've recreated the English Christmas dinner. So yeah, so Christmas for me, luckily, is not too tense where boundaries are concerned. But going back to
which is
Thanksgiving,
wonderful.
yeah, it is wonderful. Going back to Thanksgiving, though, because that's not a holiday that I've traditionally celebrated. Again, boundaries aren't an issue there because I assume that it's my husband's side of the family that would be, hosting something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so luckily from the holiday point of view, boundary wise, it's pretty calm in my house. It's not
Yeah.
calm like in other ways when it comes to
Right. Right. No,
holiday boundaries. Yeah.
I think for most listeners, probably the most common thing is like, where will we be? Because almost
Yes,
everyone comes from
it
their
is.
own family and then
Yes.
their husband's
Yes.
family. So
Yep.
a lot of times, if they're local, you'll find
Mhm.
yourself going here for a couple hours, then here for a couple hours, then
Yes.
ending here. And they're traveling. And for people with young children, like that can be such a pain in the ass because no
It's
one babysits their
exhausting.
house.
It's
It's tiring. The
exhausting.
kids are like in uncomfortable clothes. Like it's a whole thing. Um, and
Yeah.
then when you get there, the vibe of like who else was invited can influence the way that the situation is, and then conversations, like I mentioned, you mentioned in America we all talk about things that are a little divisive. My
Yeah.
family is no different, and sometimes they'll say things and I'm like, ooh, that was an inside thought that came outside, like
Yes.
it's not
Oh god, that
something
happens
we
so
say.
often. Yeah, you're
And
like, "Oh my
so
god, I can't believe you just said that out loud. That's not
ah
appropriate. Please keep that
no,
to yourself."
no. And it's interesting because I do what you do. Like I try to divert the conversation to
Yes.
something else.
Yes.
But sometimes they don't allow you to do that or they double down. And I've had to be
Agree with
like,
that.
I'm not comfortable talking about this right now or kind of ever. And so
Good
we
for
need to stop
you.
talking about it or I'm going to leave the table.
Good for
And so
you.
like and it's I don't not with everything. I'm not like this
Yeah.
boundary Nazi of like, "Rah, you must do what I say." But it's like there's certain things where it's like this is not appropriate Thanksgiving or Christmas talk. We don't need to have
Yeah.
that
I
discussion right now
agree.
at the table.
Yeah. And that's the worst. The worst is when you're at the table because you can't escape. It's like, my
No, you're
God,
just trying to eat your
you
mashed
sat there with,
potatoes.
yeah, with a plate of food in front of you, and this person's coming at you with something that they're clearly wanting your opinion on.
Yeah,
And you're like, can you just shut up? Can you please just shut
exactly.
up?
I'm like, listen, I've waited all year for this like
This
specific sweet
goddamn
potato
meal.
casserole that I'm eating right now. You better shut your mouth. Let me
Yeah.
enjoy my marshmallow casserole.
That is so funny.
That's
But
my
you
favorite.
mentioned another thing. You mentioned another thing earlier, Christina, and thinking back to when my girls were little, and my brother's got younger kids as well, so he's in the same boat right now. The whole, you start Christmas Day off in your own house, you do the whole toy thing, present opening with the kids. They want to stay quite often and just play with their new toys, but then you've got
Yeah.
to uproot them and take them to someone's house for lunch, and then you may need to go to a different relative's house for dinner. And by the time you've got Christmas Day out the way, you're bloody exhausted.
Yeah. But the thing about it is like you have to. Like I'm hearing you have to this, you have to that. You don't have to. Like
That's the
you can
key. That's the
actually
key.
as the matriarch for your family because when you leave
Yes.
your family, you are
Yes.
now your family is your responsibility.
Yes.
Not making sure they're happy or his family's happy. It's
And
your
actually,
family.
if we think about historical boundaries, I'm thinking back to when I was younger and my mum and dad were obviously, parenting me as parents of younger kids. They didn't bend or bow to my grandparents, actually. They didn't. We had my grandparents over, but I can't ever remember an occasion where we were scrambling and cutting short lunch, or my mum and dad were stressed because we had to be over at someone else's house. So they did set boundaries then. I'm thinking
Yeah.
back, they did. So yeah, that's interesting. And I like what you
Yeah.
said about, especially, as a woman, as a mum, you taking charge of how you want Christmas to look for you and your family, particularly because, let's face it, we put in all the work.
Totally.
It doesn't
And
happen
what's
without us,
best
does it?
it doesn't happen without us. And
It
what's
does not.
best for everyone else doesn't really matter if it's not what's best for you guys. And so
Exactly.
it's hard. It's like a hard truth to encounter and you're gonna
Yeah.
hurt some feelings that first year. People are gonna be pissed off at you.
Yeah.
Allow it to happen. Like if
Yeah.
you need to do something for you and your family, like if it's important to you that your children experience a Christmas morning where they open their gifts and they get to play with them for several hours and they aren't rushed off and maybe they have like 6 hours of leniency time,
Yes.
Prioritize that. If you don't care about that, who cares? Go to the next thing. Like, you get to choose what matters to you, and
You
that's
get to
your
do
decision.
you. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, before I forget, we didn't do our wins and fails, did we, this week?
Oh my gosh.
But
No, we
can
forgot.
I just say something, though? This might be a little controversial, and I haven't really consulted with you, but I think we should drop the fails because the only reason I'm saying this is because there are so many of them, frankly. I think we need to. It's so depressing. I always have like a huge list of fails, and I'm like, oh my God, there's got to have been something I did right. So I think because I want us all to have this creative, positive mindset, especially going into a new year. I think
Yeah,
we could scrap them on fail because we have enough of those anyway. We don't need to hone in on them, make ourselves feel even more lousy. So let's just focus
sure.
on the positive. So we are now going to do Mum Win of the Week. So I want to hear
Okay.
what you smashed this week, Christina. Go for it.
Okay. Okay. I think for me, and it actually coincides with the episode of boundaries.
Yes.
I finally found a weekend routine that feels good. Like, it doesn't look good. It's not something I would post on Pinterest or like Instagram and be like, whoa, mom goals, but it
Okay.
feels good. Is having one day out of the weekend where we do absolutely nothing.
Oh, I
And I
love
call
it.
it pajama day.
Yes, I
And
want one of those.
it's amazing. I put the
Mm.
girls in matching pajamas because we have these like little matching, we have a couple different versions of it. And we do nothing. Like, we play outside in our pajamas. We hang out, we watch movies, we bake maybe, or maybe we don't. Maybe we eat PB&J all day. Who cares? But
I
like,
love
it's
it.
just this day of like, if someone asks us to do something in that day, it's a no. It's a no because it's pajama day.
So is
Like,
this
we're
on a
not.
Saturday or a Sunday? Do you have like a set day for this or is it any time over the weekend?
No, I think I just wanna prioritize one day out of the weekend. So it's Saturday or Sunday, depending on if we have a birthday party or something we need to go to. But there's gotta be one day a week where we get some reprieve from, like, the craziness that is motherhood. Not only for us, like, as
Yes.
moms to just, like, drink our coffee in peace and, like, not have to worry
Yeah.
about everyone,
Yeah.
but also, like, for them because they've got
Yes.
school, they've got stuff, they need a down day. We're missing what we used to have as kids, which is just, like, watch TV and veg out.
Oh God, can you remember on a Saturday morning? Every Saturday morning I would get up and I would just watch cartoons. And I'd get up at like maybe 7 or 8. Obviously,
Mhm.
it got later as the older I got, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking, when I was like 10 or something, I'd get up, but it was such a nice feeling to know that you didn't have to do anything that
Yeah.
day. And I'd get we call them Cocoa Pops in England. I can't remember what they're called
Like
here.
a cereal? Yeah.
Yeah, the Kellogg's, like, the chocolate rice things? They're called Cocoa Pops in England. Are they called
Okay, okay,
Cocoa Krispies, I think they're called here.
okay. Like the
Yeah.
little like yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I used to eat those. They turn the milk, like, chocolatey. That was the whole thing, like, the TV commercial was all about that. Anyway, and I'd watch commercials, but we didn't have to
Yeah.
be anywhere. My mum and dad didn't seem to care. I think they were probably just
No.
having a lay-in anyway.
No, there's all this pressure of like, I've gotta take my kids here and there and this place and that place, and it's like, yeah, that's nice and it's fun to do those things and those
Yeah,
activities, but man, I like, that's my win is, like, just recognizing that we need a freaking down day
I
and looking
love
at my
it.
calendar and being like, "This is that day. This
I
is that
love
day,"
it.
and, like, it's a blockout zone, like, absolutely nothing. Mm-mm.
Well, that's one thing I know that my girls would happily agree to. I'm not gonna get any pushback if I say to them, "Right,
Pajama
girls."
day,
So
and
on a
it's so
Saturday or
fun.
Sunday morning, they'd be all over that. I'm gonna start doing that. I love it. Well, my mum win of the week is kind of Christmas related, actually. So my youngest daughter is in the Nutcracker. They both dance, but she's in the Nutcracker. Now, last year, oh my God, trying to get a ticket for this bloody performance is like the hardest thing in the world because all the parents, as soon as the tickets go on sale, they're clearly like sat by their laptops or they've got their phones and they are booking tickets
Oh my
immediately.
god.
Like it's aggressive. Say they go on sale at midday on a Friday. By 10 minutes past midday, you can't get a goddamn ticket. So they went on sale at like 1 p.m. Last Friday. So I was on the phone to the theater at 12:50, 10 minutes before.
Oh,
This is like ridiculously organized for me. And I nailed it. I was the first call. The box office didn't even open till 1:00. So I was on hold. There was no one there to take my call. I was the first call and I got my 4 tickets. And so I am so pleased. So when I collected the girls from school that day, I was like, oh, and I've got tickets for the Nutcracker girls, as opposed to, so girls, about the Nutcracker. Obviously, I would love to see you, but right now I can't get tickets because they've sold out. So that's my mum win. I got
Oh my
tickets to go and see my
gosh.
own kids in an amateur Nutcracker recital. So that's a huge win.
I I can't believe they're that hard to get. They sound like a Taylor Swift Ticketmaster situation. Like you need a
It
pre-sale
basically
code.
is.
Oh my
It
god.
basically is. The only difference is you're probably paying like another grand to go and watch Taylor Swift. I've got to say, though, they're not exactly cheap, these tickets, to go and watch your kid. I mean, I think the tickets were the cheapest ones were about $35.
What?
Yes, the
And
cheapest.
aren't you paying for them to be in the Nutcracker too?
Oh God, it's a whole thing. I need a side hustle for them to be in the Nutcracker because, oh
Jeez.
yeah, you got to pay costume hire. Well, not hire because you keep them, but costumes. They're extortionate and depends how many dancers they're in. Therefore, they need more costumes. And then you have to pay for extra rehearsals. It's a thing. I seriously need a side hustle just for them to be in the Nutcracker. But going back to my
Girl.
win, at least I can go and watch them this year. At least I haven't just like waved bye to like God knows how much money, and I can't even see the fruits of my labor.
There we go. Well, they better be damn good for
They
the
better be
constant
bloody good.
energy.
And the worst thing is, I'm because I used to dance and I was training to go to ballet school. All the other parents are there. Oh, aren't they wonderful? Look at their little faces. I'm there focusing on the feet and the technique.
Oh man, like a dance
Yeah.
mom.
Oh yeah, I kind of so anyway,
Oh.
that's my win.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love that we focus on the positive. You know, we're both
Yeah.
here. We both have wins. We're not going to talk about the fails. We'll just leave that to another day. But for our listeners, let's play the same game. Like give us
Yes.
wins only. Wins only in the comments and
Wins
message us your
only.
win.
Let's celebrate our wins. Let's celebrate things that are actually going right in our world right now. So we'd love to hear from you. So let us know what you smashed this week and you did great.
Yeah, and also for this episode, let us know if you feel like Claire, where like I'm speaking to you right now and you're taking notes, or
Yeah.
maybe you disagree or have other thoughts around boundaries. I'd love to hear. We are all about lots of opinions, lots of people's perspectives on here, and maybe you have a specific situation you need help with. Like we could give advice. We are not therapists, and we'll put the disclaimer out, but
Disclaimer.
we're
Disclaimer.
here.
Yeah, I still need someone to help me sort my life out. So I'm in no position to be giving anyone serious life advice. But you know what? On off the back of that, actually, Christina, I don't know about you, but I am loving the comments we're getting right now. I love
Yeah,
the conversation from all of you guys at home. Please keep it coming. It literally does make my day when I get a notification to say, someone's commented on our Facebook page or Instagram or wherever it may be. And it's just great to hear from you. I really do feel like we're together. We're building this village that we so desperately wanted to build, which is why we
yeah,
launched this podcast in the first place. And so please
yeah.
keep chatting with us. And, if there are any subjects that you want us to cover, some program ideas, some episode ideas, we want to hear from you because we take inspiration from you as well. You're in it just as much as we are. So if there's something that you'd really love us to tackle or chat about or just bring to people's attention, please just comment. You can do it publicly or privately, however you want to do that.
Yep.
But we love hearing from you guys. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Momversation Club.
And if you've enjoyed today's show, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach even more moms and build a stronger village.
It sure does. And remember, we're here for you. And together, I promise, we'll figure out where the F is that village at.
See you next time.
Bye.